So, Confessions of a Mask by Yukio Mishima came out in 1949, and it concerns a young boy named Koshan, who is a thinly veiled, from what I can gather at least, version of Mishima himself. In that sense, I might even dare to call it kind of a memoir, in the sense that this young man is dealing with, it's a coming of age in a sense that he's coming. It's building. I'd say it's even similar to kind of Bildungsroman in the sense of like Hesse or Thomas Mann, because there's definitely some coming to maturity and coming into one's own self and personality. And with this book, it concerns a young man starting out very young. He's born in amid a post-war, very kind of up in arms and feisty Japan, that they're kind of feeling at their imperialism, their rise of imperialism. They felt the need to kind of conquer and accrue as much land as they could. Hence the kind of the Chinese Manchurian War. They were very, very much, and Murakami talks about this too, like in the Wind Up Bird Chronicles too, like a long, one of the veterans, kind of a long description of them getting skinned alive by one of the, I think, Japanese, which probably wasn't too much unlike what actually happened. Just like visceral, just horrible, like what happened with the rape of Nanking too, just absolute terror, just thousands, like just slicing open, pregnant woman, just with for no other reason, just because they just to kind of gain a sense of glory and splendor from it. I'm not sure what would motivate anybody to do that, but like this idea of manliness in Japan, it was very honor culture, I think. I'm trying my best not to stereotype them, but there was honor was a big thing. Like if you dishonor to the family, if you bring shame upon anybody, it is better to die sometimes. With that, seppuku, I think, is the name of the rite. That's what Mishima did himself. I believe I mentioned in the Sailor Who Fell from Grace with the Sea, I think. He basically committed that upon himself when he had a coup that failed because not enough people actually wanted to join him, and he was like, I guess I'm just gonna do this myself. And I think the Paul Schrader Mishima, I think that I'd like to watch that miniseries when I get a chance. I think he covers that more in depth. But anyway, so this concerns Koshan as a young man, and he's very ashamed kind of his body because he's born amid a very kind of manly, masculine Japan, but a lot of nationalistic tendencies, and he's very and he's cursed to be kind of in this anemic languid, sickly body. He's a sickly child that has to spend a lot of days confined to bed, just to get by. And he resorts to reading books, and he's into poetry, and not like Mishima himself. And he writes this very beautiful poem about I think Saint Sebastian, about the getting stuck in head, and it's a very kind of infamous saint who was killed by arrows, I believe, and he was shot by like tons of them, and kind of a slew of them, and died slowly and painfully. And that kind of classic martyr's death, and he was wrote this poem about Saint Sebastian, and yeah, he's kind of mid school, like he's has to hide this secret, is that he's very much attracted to men, in that Koshan sees like these different kind of perfect ideal forms of of manliness, kind of the masculine body, like Hellenic, Roman or Greek sculptures too, like this idea that man was something that was sculpted, muscle bound, but not but kind of perfected to the point, like it was the Greek body was something to be admired on an athletic grounds as well, like that Athenian physique. Adonis too is like an image that you kind of get stuck in your mind. This idea of the perfect kind of archetype of body of the male body. Probably not the female body too, as I'd imagine, but it was very much kind of focused on the male too, especially with Mishima's case, because he himself too talked about in Sun and Steel, I think it's called, like the kind of joy of like being among other men, like like what teamwork gets you, and like competition, healthy competition, I think. And you kind of wonder, you have to kind of, I take it with a bit of a chip on my shoulder, like what his whole patriotic kind of tendencies were. I think was was it just too much of an overreaction? Was it too much of a him just taking it to its logical conclusion? I'm not too sure, but he certainly believed what he was saying. Though he worked out like like a madman. Like he was like totally kind of pushed himself to have that kind of very same kind of physique as well. And I was very accomplished in martial arts as well. But yeah, he practiced what he preached. But when he was young, it wasn't so much like that. He was very sickly. He was very much like the main character. And Koshan is he starts to become infatuated with this boy named Omen, I think, or Oman, Omi, I think. And he's this kind of a prized kind of athlete in his school. And in the gymnasium, he sees him work out and climbing a rope, and he's just like in awe of this boy. Kind of reminds me a bit of Thomas Mann's The Death in Venice, with Adenbach, I think is the name. Like just being like totally infatuated by it's like this boy, but you're not sure if it's like is it a sexual longing? Is it limerence? Is it a want to be with him, or is it just kind of like on a platonic level? Like there's different kind of ways of discerning that kind of love, or that kind of like regaling and enamoration, I guess. But yeah, there's I like how he does leave it to be ambivalent, and so yeah, so there's I do like he had conversations with friends, and I think a lot of them, it was very especially taboo to be homosexual in Japan at this time, because they didn't have men's men, and he was talking with different people about it, and he was hiding it too. Like Coach Hans mentions Proust, and the fact that Proust was very known in post, it's openly now known nowadays that he was homosexual as well, and that he like the amount of kind of longing and wistfulness and nostalgia he was able to conjure up in Swan's Way, and in Search of Lost Time, as well as a totality of that whole work. And he was mentioning that like he was like, am I destined to be kind of Proust in this situation? Do I have to hide my natural tendencies like to the world? And yeah, he struggles with it. Yeah, he has to keep it under. He has to, for the sake of social niceties and what's the word? For the sake of propriety, what's expected of a man in pre-war, post-war Japan, it's expected for them to be kind of manly and to take charge and to be imperial and physically adept and all that. And he was, and that's a kind of interesting contradiction, or not really contradiction, I guess, but kind of thing with Mishima is the fact that he was both very. He was actually all those things. He was physically capable and fit, but he was also gay as well. So it's just interesting to have those two dynamics, that they're not sometimes like I guess you could even say from an anthropological kind of sociological point of view, you could maybe say that there's something to a kind of an isolated country where boys are kind of they're left to repress themselves and repress their feelings, and out of that you kind of get like kind of like one of my favorite movies, Merry Christmas, Mr. Lawrence, with the forbidden kiss. Like you get that kind of you become the very thing that you keep repressing, and the thing that's very taboo becomes like the most cherished thing. And it's like it's just it's a trope. I've heard it a million times, but somehow it just holds true. I don't know if it's art imitates life or what, but something that I think is worth to muse on. So yeah, Confessions of a Mask by Yukio Mishima. Check it out. Definitely hope I'm not leaving anything out of importance. I would like to find a quote maybe, but like his poem he writes about Saint Sebastian, I found very yeah, like he says in it, like, out of the schoolroom window I once spied a tree looking at of middling height, swaying in the wind. As I looked, my heart began to thunder. It was a tree of startling beauty. Upon the lawn it erected an upright triangle tinged with roundness. The heavy feeling of its verdure was supposed to be on its manly branches, thrusting upward on and toward a balanced symmetry of candelabrum, and beneath the greenery there showed a sturdy trunk, like an ebony pedestal. Yeah, I just like the imagery with that. So yeah, thanks for watching.